Hey tubers, Dale here. Hope you all are doing great. Just a quick memo before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the video. I tried something different this time around. I used the new GoPro camera I bought for the first time and I loved it. It freed up my hands and allowed me to work without constantly stopping and going. I strapped the thing to my head, I hit the record button, and went to town. I got a lot of comments, a lot of feedback of people saying they wanted edited videos with less talking and more working. I'm going to be voicing over this whole video, but I hope that the GoPro gives you all a much better immersion factor into my videos. I hope this is a step in the right direction and that you all enjoy the hopefully better quality of the video that this brings you. So, let's get to it. This is a thermostat replacement on a 2008 Chevrolet Cobalt LS XFE option with the base 2.2 liter 4-cylinder L61 engine. This is my vehicle. It had a check engine light on for a P0128 code. 9 times out of 10 it is caused by a thermostat that's gone bad. So without further ado, let's get to it, shall we? So obviously, first things first, step one is to open up your hood. On these 2.2 liters, the thermostat's weird. It's kind of buried. It's underneath all this stuff here on the driver's side of the engine. You see that there's an AC line, the secondary air line goes over it. I'm just kind of sitting here poking through, seeing what my plan of attack is going to be. It's nothing super hard. You just got to kind of reach for it. I've got a 3/8 extension and a ratchet. You should be able to get to it pretty easy. Alright, so first plan of attack is to loosen up the clamp that clamps the hose onto the thermostat housing. The only reason why you're actually doing that is because with the clamp in the way, you can't actually get to the bottom bolt on the thermostat housing. I've got a really long extension, a 8mm on a swivel socket. I'm just loosening up the clamp and reaching underneath and pulling the clamp back. This way I can actually gain access to that bottom bolt. Now that that hose clamp is out of the way, get your 10mm socket and on the end of your long extension and start going after the thermostat housing bolts. There's only 2 of them. Start loosening them. Make sure you have your catch pan underneath the vehicle, because as soon as you crack that second one,
oh, perfect
frickin'
aim. That is awesome. Perfect
friggin'
estimate. Perfect. That's about as perfect as you can get.
as you could tell, I was actually pretty thrilled about having guessed where the coolant was going to fall. Hey, I didn't spill any coolant, so it's all good. I was kind of thrilled about that. So, the next step is actually to take the bolts. Now take the bolts out of the thermostat housing. Like I said, there's 2 of them. One's at 11 o'clock and the other's at about 5 o'clock. These are the 2 bolts that kind of sandwich everything together. And make sure you got a good grip on them. You definitely don't want to drop them. That would really suck. So take them out. I usually put them right in the cowl there. And now I'm just reaching down and pulling apart the thermostat housing, and out comes the thermostat. Friggin'.
Oh yeah, there's no gasket to it.
Yep, that gasket was completely destroyed. This is actually a pretty common thing with General Motors vehicles of this vintage. Gaskets completely getting eroded away or rolled over, and what happens is the thermostat doesn't seal properly. The reason why you get the P0128 code is because the engine's PCM detects that the engine hasn't reached a required temperature level within a specified amount of time after starting the engine. It uses the intake air temperature sensor, the engine coolant temperature sensor, and the speed of the vehicle. It takes all these accounts into effect, and what happens is that it sets a predetermined value of how warm the coolant should be, or how warm the engine should be. When coolant leaks past the thermostat, it takes longer for the engine to warm up, and therefore it doesn't meet the requirements set forth by the computer, and the computer will set that check engine light. Another thing to note is that when you have this code, your engine fans, your engine cooling fans will constantly stay running. You have no working air conditioning, and you have no digital readout on the dashboard for coolant temperature. And now I'll show you a picture of the thermostat housing itself. You see the beveled edge? There's no need for gaskets or anything like that. Just stick the thermostat right inside that little beveled edge there with the 2 screws, and that's it. You just stick it back in there. So what I'm actually doing now is I'm just taking my finger, I'm just sticking it into the housing, getting a little bit of coolant on my finger, and I'm just going around putting it on the rubber seal around the outside of the thermostat. I hate installing stuff dry, especially with rubber seals, so that's what I'm doing there. It's just a force of habit. If you don't install things with rubber seals without lubricating them first, there's a chance that they can pinch or bend or break, whatever the case is. So that's why I like to do that. Now I'm just taking a rag. I'm just cleaning off the mating surfaces on the thermostat housing, making sure it's nice and clean. And now I'm just taking my hand and putting the thermostat back in, just like the picture showed, inside the little beveled edge. Like I said, there's no need for gaskets. It was actually really easy. It was different, but it was really easy. The spring side goes down towards the bottom, and the rounded edge goes towards the top, so that's how it's oriented. And I'm just putting the thermostat back in the housing. Now that the thermostat's in, you can see I'm just taking some of that copper anti-seize. I'm just going to put it on the bolts that go into the thermostat housing and put it all together. Just a habit of mine. I like using anti-seize wherever possible, especially in aluminum, because aluminum has a habit of oxidizing and getting corroded, especially with coolant. So I'm just put a little anti-seize on there, and I'm putting the bolts in. Big thing here, do not cross thread these. Always start bolts by hand, especially in this thermostat housing. It's very soft aluminum. You do not want to cross thread these. If you cross thread these, it's going to be a very bad day. So I'm just putting the bolts in there, starting them by hand, and running them down as far as I can with my hand. As you can see, that top bolt was a little bit more of a pain than the bottom one. So now I've got my 10 millimeter socket on there along with my long extension and the 3/8. And when you tighten them, just tighten them down until they're nice and snug. You can see that I tighten them down just until they start snugging up. You don't need to kill them. The rule of thumb is you do one, go to the other, do the same thing, and go back and forth 2 or 3 more times, adding a little bit more torque to each of them. Now I know it looks like I'm actually killing these bolts, but when you use extensions, you actually lose the amount of torque that you put onto an object. So I'm really not killing them as much as it looks like. The way I tightened them is I pretty much got to the point where I tightened it almost like an old drain plug. It was about 20-25 foot-pounds. It looks a lot worse than it actually is. And like I said, just go back and forth, between the two bolts about 2 or 3 times. Make sure you got a good even torque on both of them, and run them in good. And that's that. And now the next step is to take that hose clamp that we had to remove before, slide it back into position, and tighten that back down. I'm just taking my hand there, sliding it back, taking my long extension again with the 8 millimeter and the swivel socket, and we're just tightening it back down. This way we prevent any leaks. You don't need to kill them again. It's just a hose clamp. Just tighten it down until it's nice and snug. Alright, so now that that's done, it's time to top off the coolant. So grab your funnel, and I'm using 50-50. I already pre-mixed it myself. It's not a big deal. I just went half and half with it. So top off your coolant until you see it at the full mark on the reservoir. And it's also important to note GM vehicles use orange coolant. It's called Dexcool. Do not mix any other forms of coolant with it because it can cause serious damage to the cooling system and it can cause serious damage to the engine. So make sure you use Dexcool when you do this procedure on a General Motors vehicle. And now I'm actually pulling the catch pan out from underneath my car. It's a little 7-quart thing, and it didn't overfill or anything, so that's pretty much all you really need is just a small little catch pan, a little 7-quart one. Another thing to note too, do not just dump your coolant out or anything. That stuff is very toxic to animals and it's not good for the environment. As you can see me right here, I'm actually putting it back in because I'm actually going to recycle it. But I'm actually going to let this run because look at this. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it on the camera. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's actually a piece of gasket from the thermostat inside the coolant. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see it? I'm actually going to stop it right about here. Do you see the black piece? You see the small black piece? There it is. That is a piece of gasket that's actually inside the coolant that got broken free from the thermostat. So it would actually be a good time right now to actually do a coolant flush. I actually didn't do that. But make sure that you recycle your coolant because this stuff's toxic and if animals drink it they will die. So make sure you recycle it, do the proper thing. And now is the moment of truth. Get in your vehicle, turn your heater to the hot position, turn on the fan, and start the vehicle. What you're going to do now is check for leaks. Make sure that everything is good and solid, that the integrity is there, and you're also going to check the coolant as well. Make sure that it doesn't run dry out in the reservoir. But just check for leaks, make sure nothing is leaking. Fortunately for us, there was no leaking, so it was a job well done. Now the next step is to get in the car and hold the RPMs at 2,000 RPMs for about 3 to 5 minutes or so. This is per GM service manual. While you're doing this, check for heat because you're trying to clear air out of the system. Now watch in slow motion here. I've got it in slow motion. Bam. The coolant reading has come back on the dashboard. So that's kind of a telltale sign that everything is all set and completed. That's kind of what I'm actually pointing at right there. So while you're doing that, you're clearing air out of the system and make sure your coolant reading comes back on your dashboard. Yes, the check engine light's still there, but that's going to go away after a few drive cycles. Once you're done with that, go back up to the coolant reservoir once again and make sure that it's topped off. Coolant level will keep dropping as long as you're clearing air out of the system, so make sure that it's topped off appropriately to the full mark. Put your cap back on and make sure you go for a drive, because going for a drive will help clear air out of the system, make sure that you have heat, and make sure everything is running copacetic. And that's it. You're done. You just replaced this thermostat on your Chevy Cobalt. I hope this video was informational, and I hope it helps you out to anybody who needs to change the thermostat on a Chevy Cobalt for the same reason. Thank you guys very much. I'm super appreciative of all the subscribers and all the likes, the shares, the comments. I really do appreciate it, guys. You don't even understand. So thank you very much for watching my video. I hope to make more videos soon. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you again.
Yeah, and I forgot my keys. Right, I forgot my keys. Ow. Shocking. Oh yeah, huh? Whoopsie. 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 I didn't forget anything else back here, did I? Okay, cool. Yeah, alrighty. Let's try that again. Hi. How's it going? Good. You're on film.